Okay, boys and girls, let's continue with reading, please. Week 2, the history of communication. You can go to page 318 and 319, please. All right, radio, boys and girls. The telegraph and the telephone enabled people at distant locations to communicate with each other, but only if the locations were connected by wires. This began to change in the late 1800s when scientists discovered ways to send radio signals through the air. The invention of the radio allowed people to communicate quickly between any 2 points on land, at sea, and later in the sky and in space. The development of the radio began in the 1830s with an idea proposed separately by an American professor named Joseph Henry and a British scientist named Michael Faraday. Both Henry and Faraday proposed that an electric current in one wire could produce an electric current in another wire, even when the wires are not connected. Though many people contributed to the radio's development, Nikola Tesla, an American inventor from Austria-Hungary, is credited with this invention. In 1891, he invented the Tesla coil, an extremely important part of radio transmitters. In 1895, an Italian inventor named Guglielmo Marconi sent radio signals more than a mile through the air in the form of telegraph code signals. In 1901, Marconi's equipment transmitted signals all the way across the Atlantic Ocean from England to Canada. In 1906, a Canadian-born scientist named Reginald Fessenden first transmitted voice by radio. Radio broadcasting or programming began on a large scale during the 1920s. Soon families could gather in their living rooms to listen to comedies, adventure dramas, live music, variety shows, and other kinds of radio programming. Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla, 1856 through 1943, was born in Austria-Hungary, in an area that is now part of Croatia. In 1884, Tesla left Europe for the United States. He worked for the inventor Thomas Edison, but quit after 1 year. Tesla became a pioneer in electrical technology, and he received more than 100 patents for a variety of inventions. His Tesla coil is still used in radio and television transmission today. Tesla's other achievements include groundbreaking work with X-rays, radar, aircraft design, and neon and fluorescent lighting. We have a photograph, boys and girls, and a caption, and it's Guglielmo Marconi poses with his wireless radio receiver in 1896. And here, boys and girls, this photograph shows families used to gather around the radio to listen to news, sports, and entertainment. Okay, boys and girls, the radio. The radio began in the 1800s when they started sending radio signals through the air for a form of communication. But the radio that you and I know of did not begin until the 1920s. Radio broadcasting programming. And boys and girls, at this time again, radio was invented, but not the TV, not television. So in the 1920s, families would gather around their radio and they would listen to shows and comedies and music. No TV yet, boys and girls. And let me show you what that would look like. When they would record in the studio, they would perform, like, see here, boys and girls, it's almost like a play, but no one is watching them, but people are listening to them through the radio. So they would be at a radio station And these people would be characters, and they would read from script, from play, and they would kind of like act it out, but just with their voices. And families at home would listen to their stories. Okay, look at this one, boys and girls. Again, no one is watching this. This was a performance, but just for the people there, because it was all captured through radio, boys and girls. There was a microphone, and but the characters would still act it out there in the studio, and they would make sound effects with anything that they had, any items that they had. Let's see. You can see here, they had some instruments. Again, instruments making noises, other noises over here, whether like a bowling ball and bowling pins. They were at whistling with a piece of paper. Again, no one saw this, boys and girls, but there were still actors acting it out and trying to make as much authentic noises that they could make. Here's another one, boys and girls. You see these gentlemen? Get this one on top, guys. And they would make noise and sound effects. This is how it all started. I know with movies now, the advancement of movies, boys and girls, is amazing because this is how it started. A bunch of people in a room trying to make it as entertaining as possible to the listeners and trying to make the sounds of their stories come to life with all these other equipment, boys and girls, that they would make. Look at this one. You see? Banging on a mattress, trying to make some sounds. There's like rocks over here, I'm sure, too. The story called that they were running outside. So very interesting, boys and girls, how it used to be. Okay, so we talked about telegrams and radio and telephone. Do you know what's coming up next, boys and girls? Can you guess what's the next invention that they're going to talk about in the history of communication? We'll see. Thank you, boys and girls.